My teacher crushed the last flower from my mother's casket, so I threw his entire desk out the third-floor window. Mr. Sterling was the kind of teacher who thrived on a specific type of power. He didn't just want you to learn biology, he wanted you to fear his syllabus. He had a strict rule about non-academic items on desks. If he saw anything that wasn't a textbook or a lab manual, it became his property until the end of the semester. Usually, it was just phones or cheap earbuds, but on Friday, I made the mistake of leaving my wooden box out. It was a small, hand-carved cedar box. It didn't look like much, but it was smooth from years of being handled. It sat on the corner of my lab station while I was focused on a microscope slide. Mr. Sterling didn't say a word. He just glided over, swept the box into his hand, and walked back to his podium. "Mr. Sterling, please," I said, my voice jumping an octave. "I will put it away. I am sorry." He didn't even look up. "Rule 14, David. Distractions are confiscated. You can collect it in June." I stood up, my chair screeching against the linoleum. "It is not a distraction. It is just a box. Please give it back." He sighed, that long, theatrical sigh he used when a student was being particularly difficult. He opened the lid. Inside was a single, withered pressed flower and a small silver locket that didn't even have a chain. He pulled the flower out by the stem. "Is this a science project?" he asked, holding it up for the class to see. "Because it looks like yard waste." The class went quiet. Everyone knew Mr. Sterling was a jerk, but this felt different. I told him it was from my mother's funeral. I told him it was the only thing I had left of her that I could carry with me. My mother had passed away 2 years ago from breast cancer. That flower was from the center of her casket spray. I kept it in the box because the smell of the cedar and the dried petals was the only thing that could stop a panic attack when school got too loud. Mr. Sterling looked at the flower. Then he looked at me. He told me that sentimentality was a biological weakness. He said that holding on to dead things was a sign of a cluttered mind. Then he dropped the flower onto the floor and crushed it under his polished dress shoe. The sound was tiny, a dry, brittle crunch. My vision went blurry. I didn't see the classroom anymore. I just saw the dust of the petals on his shoe. He wasn't done. He picked up the cedar box, walked to the open window, and tossed it out. We were on the third floor. I heard it hit the pavement of the courtyard below. I did not go to the office. I did not cry. I walked to the front of the room. Mr. Sterling started to say something about detention, but I didn't listen. I grabbed his heavy oak desk by the edge and surged forward with a strength I didn't know I had. I pushed the entire desk across the floor. Papers flew everywhere. His expensive computer monitor tumbled and shattered. I shoved the desk toward the same open window. He tried to grab my arms, but I was a varsity rower, and he was a man who spent his life behind a podium. I shoved him back and gave the desk one final, massive heave. It tilted, caught the light for a second, and then vanished. The sound of it hitting the courtyard was like a bomb going off. Wood splintered, glass exploded. His precious grade books, his personal journals, and his framed degrees were scattered across the concrete. I walked to the door. I told him that science is about cause and effect. I told him he shouldn't be surprised when his actions resulted in a total loss of property. I walked down the stairs to the courtyard. I found my box. It was cracked. The hinge was gone, but the wood was still whole. I sat on the edge of the fountain and picked up the silver locket from the dirt. By the time the principal arrived, 40 students were standing in the hallway looking out the windows. Not one of them offered to help Mr. Sterling pick up his papers. I was expelled, of course. My dad had to come in for a long meeting with the school board. When I told him what happened, he didn't yell. He just looked at my bruised knuckles and the cracked cedar box in my lap. He told the principal that he would pay for the desk, but only after Mr. Sterling was fired for the destruction of a student's irreplaceable personal property. It took 3 weeks and a viral video from a kid in the back row, but the district eventually settled. Mr. Sterling lost his license. My dad took the cedar box to a professional woodworker who fixed the cracks and replaced the hinge with gold leaf. I don't have the flower anymore, but I have the box, and every time I look at it, I remember the sound of that desk hitting the ground. It was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard.